Hello filmmakers, how are you all doing? Get in touch at FNI WrapChat@gmail.com if you have any news you would like us to share. So this week we have a really cool episode. It's with Wischin. So a few weeks ago, Paul invited over script doctor, script guru, script teacher Wischin, who's a Vienna-based script doctor, who has some really interesting theories about writing, and he uses algorithms and that kind of thing. So for the people who couldn't make it to the seminar, which by all accounts was very helpful, we have a sit-down interview here with Ip talking about his life in film and script, the people he's worked with, and a lot of his kind of really out there but really helpful ideas about writing. So also this week in cinemas is Michael Inside, which is a wonderful film made by Frank Berry. So if you want to go back to episode 13, you can listen to the conversation we had with Frank. It's a really good one, and we really encourage you, if you're going to the cinema this week, support Irish film and go see Michael Inside. It's a really fantastic film. So we've got some interesting developments coming up, so hopefully we'll be able to share those with you. We're trying to make the podcast bigger and better and get sound quality and all that better, so we'll have some news for you in the next few weeks, so stay tuned for that. So here you go. This is it.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another exciting edition of FNI WrapChat with myself, Paul Butler-Lennox, flying solo today from the warm surroundings of the Generator Hostel in Smithfield, Dublin 7. We've just finished up a writing workshop called Let's Get Naked on Film, which is a process of working by algorithms to formulate a screenplay, or formulate screenplays, ideas, and story develop your characters and plot and so on. So I'm lucky today. Paul's not with us today, you're stuck with me. So here we are with Wischin. Am I saying that right? Correctly? Wischin?
Yeah.
Wischin?
Yeah. Wischin is okay.
Yeah, you're happy with that. If you could tell me a little bit about your. I guess how you got introduced to film.
Okay. Well, first, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome.
I'm honored. And concerning your question, I started as a filmmaker by watching movies. Actually, my very first experience as a kid was watching Star Wars, like with so many other people. It was an eye-opener to me, and it saved my life because it really took me out of my misery to see that there is escape possible. Okay. And later on, I became more interested in how to make movies, and I got myself a Super 8 camera. And
you'd be surprised how often that comes up about people picking up a Super 8 camera. It seems to be a running theme. Everybody from a certain vintage.
Yeah, well, at the time there was nothing else but Super 8 cameras. There was no video yet and nothing of the like. You had to do with Super 8, which was extremely expensive, of course, and it had to be developed and stuff and everything. And so you would really think twice about turning on the camera and filming something, and you would be very footage conscious.
Yeah. Well, you would have to be, and that's, I suppose, what's missing about film now is that people roll off so many takes. They're not conscious of footage and trying to get things precise in a small number of takes as well. I think that's lacking, really, to be honest.
Yeah, this is also lacking in the editorial process. I learned of editing film on 60mm moviola, which means when you slice film and then splice it, you cannot really take back a cut. So you can, but it becomes a rattling experience, actually. The film would start to rattle if you have too many splices where you rejoined a film that actually was cut on the wrong place. Mm-hmm. So you had to learn how to feel the rhythm of a film in your hands by holding the film against the light and in your hands, and you would determine by just holding it physically in your hands, will this edit work or not?
Wow, so it was a very tangible, craftsman-like experience.
Very tangible, and not like today. You try everything out in the computer. In a computer you have all variations. You say, nah, that doesn't work. So you don't have to know why it doesn't work, because you can just try anything. Try on the arrow is now everything. In our day, we had to know, because we couldn't afford to be wrong.
Yeah, I guess. So you started. So let me. You started out as an actual editor. That was your first job.
Nah, that was what I was doing at Columbia University.
Okay.
Yeah, I learned actually in New York at the School of Visual Art and Columbia University. I took courses there, and I worked there with all the rather old equipment. So we had like a Nagra for the sound recording, and we had a Bolex.
Wow, Bolex.
Yeah, for shooting 60mm Bolex and moviolas and stuff. So it's rather old equipment already at the time.
Okay. So how did you end up in Columbia University? What brought you there?
Well, I was friends with a Czech filmmaker by the name of Wojtek Jasny, and he's a colleague of Milos Forman's. So he made it possible for me to participate. Otherwise, I couldn't afford to be there, actually. So it was actually out of courtesy by my Czech friends who escaped from Czechoslovakia and became American citizens and taught at the Columbia University.
And this was in the 80s, was it? Early 80s?
Yeah, it was between 81 and 85.
Wow, that must have been an incredible experience. Did you work directly with Milos Forman?
Yes, I did, and we went through all his early movies, especially his Czechoslovakian movies like Lasky Jedne Plavovlasky, which is one of my favorite Milos Forman movies. English title, I think, is Loves of a Blonde.
Okay.
I recommend it highly to you. It's
okay.
His early Czechoslovakian movies are even better than One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Really? Okay,
yes.
That's very interesting. So can I ask you, what brought you to Ireland?
Well, actually,
Or your interest in working in Ireland?
Well, the thing is, it started with my friend Simone. Simone, she worked here, and she said, Ireland is just fantastic. We have to do something here. Mm-hmm. And so then I said, okay, well, let's see. And then I heard that Ireland is rather prolific and might become the next Hollywood, because they're doing things like Games of Thrones here and stuff. And if this works out, then I want to be there. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay, well, let's try something. I contacted a friend of mine. He contacted you. Mm-hmm. And we said, well, let's try something. And I was very lucky to meet very professional people who made it possible.
And me.
That's you. I was referring to you, actually.
Okay. So yeah, screenwriting, if I might touch on that with you. What brought you to story development and coaching and screenwriting coaching? How did that enter your life? And
yeah, well, this is something that developed over the years. Of course, when I came back from America to Austria, mm-hmm. I started to do independent movies and write my own scripts, and I tried to come up with my own rules about how to write screenplays. I'm always very skeptical about what's written in the textbooks, and also I'm a heretic. So I only believe a rule if I tried it myself and if it's been proved to me that it's right. Otherwise, even if it's a very smart book written by a very smart, erudite writer, I just don't believe it as long as I didn't try it and found it worthwhile. Mm-hmm. So, and then over the years, I worked on my own films. Unfortunately, I'm a very bad director. I'm not having the right attitude for being a film director.
Okay, what do you think that entails to be a director? What kind of attributes do you need to have?
Well,
that you don't have, I guess.
Well, you have to. You don't necessarily want to be friends with everybody, because you have to kick ass. You have to say, well, I want it that way. I know you will hate me, but I still need this in that way and not any other way. Mm-hmm. So people will hate you for being a good director.
Yeah,
in many ways.
Yeah, despite their logic, despite their own reasoning behind why they feel as if things should be done a different way.
Yeah, yeah.
Like there was when I was studying, very interesting. There was a very interesting point made by one of my tutors, which I think applies to this as well.
Yeah.
Even when you're wrong, you're right.
Yeah.
Even when you're wrong, you're right, because if you lose your crew,
yeah.
There's going to be a mutiny.
Yeah.
So even when you're wrong, you're right. It's irrelevant whether or not it actually makes sense or not.
Yeah.
It's more of an attitude thing more than anything else.
It's an attitude thing. You have you don't consider if people like you or not.
Okay. It's irrelevant. Yeah.
It's irrelevant. The only thing that counts is the film. The movie must turn out right. Your life depends on it.
Yeah, well, particularly in a country. Well, I suppose it's everywhere, but in this country, you get one stab, I guess, at something of a reasonable standard and budget, and it's hard to come back from that, particularly in terms of trying to raise funding.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a country like this, and I'm sure in Austria as well. So, just for our viewers who don't know, Ip wears or has worn a number of different hats over the years. He's a screenwriting coach. You've been an editor for some time as well, I believe. You've written for television in Europe. You've taught across in the States and all over Europe, in the UK, and you were an actor as well.
That's true.
I don't know. Do you still act?
Well, not really. Not in the ordinary meaning.
Yeah.
For 10 years.
Well, you perform every day, and I've seen that over the last.
Yeah,
couple
well,
of days.
I show off whenever I can. But,
yeah.
But in terms of professional acting, I was a stage actor in a small theater. We did tour actually Europe and America. I translated one play by Kafka into English, and we toured with that.
That was Metamorphosis, was it?
Nah, that was America by Kafka.
Okay, oh, fantastic.
Yeah. The Metamorphosis I only performed in German.
Okay.
But I played it 600 times.
Wow.
It's a one-man show, actually, and I play all the roles. I play Gregor Samsa and the sister and the father and everybody.
What was that like? In terms of, I was watching an interview with Al Pacino recently, and just came across it by accident. It wasn't like a actor's black hole looking for heroes type talks. Mm-hmm. It was just completely by accident, and he was talking about after a certain number of performances, mm-hmm. he doesn't feel as if he's ever discovered it or he's on top of it in terms of he's right till the very end. Mm-hmm. After even a number of months of performing something, he feels as if it's new and fresh. And
yes.
The reason why that popped into my head is after 600 performances of something, did you feel as if you were ever on top of it and you
no.
had a hold of it? Or
the truth is, I felt that I played it in 600 different ways.
Okay.
So every time what I felt was right was the way I went.
Right.
I said, well, wouldn't it be interesting to play it that way? And then I would go for it. And I knew that the audience deserved something fresh, not something that was just automatically performed, but something that an approach that at the moment seemed interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be fresh, and of course there were minor performances, better ones. I wasn't at top of my act every performance. Sometimes I was rather tired. By the way, sometimes I did my best performances when I was tired, because I had to fight it, and this gave me energy. While when I thought that I'm really in the best spirits, then maybe I would be not as paying as much attention as necessary, because I felt, well, I'm doing it right anyway.
Yeah, I guess a different level of adrenaline or a fight or flight instinct.
Yeah, that's the word. Yeah,
that lifts you above it. And
yes, absolutely.
yeah, that kind of superhuman strength when it's really needed. Like you hear stories about mothers lifting cars.
Yes.
When their children are trapped and all this.
Yes, and
sort of
even
things.
children lifting their mothers.
Yeah, or pulling them out of wreckages and stuff. Yeah, literally.
Yeah. Mothers are huge.
Not that in any way acting is as important as somebody saving someone's life, but then again, maybe it is in another way, in terms of lifting someone's spirits,
Well, I guess it is. I guess anything cultural, or anything in art, like a good performance, a painting by a Leonardo da Vinci or anything like that, is the biggest miracle, because how is it possible that from the Big Bang, from a huge explosion out of nothing, those atoms and molecules that are just banging into each other, in the end bring about a Mozart piano concerto by itself? Just nobody intervening here. It's just happening by itself. So cultural things like a Mozart piano concerto or a good performance are definitely the absolute peak of evolution, the absolute peak of what the universe can bring about.
Yeah.
So it's at least as important as human life.
Okay. I suppose, what's that line from Amadeus about God? From the Peter Shaffer play. Salieri line. It'll come to me anyway. Yeah, it's and in him I seen God, or something along those lines when he was performing.
Yeah.
I suppose that's the closest we'll ever get to any sort of grand epiphany. When
Guess so. Yes.
when performing and things are going well, and you lose yourself into something.
Yes.
Like a baritone who loses themselves, or a soprano who loses themselves into a note momentarily.
Yeah.
Screenwriting. What do you make of? Because you've done a couple of classes over here now. What do you make of Irish students?
Well, I find it great that they are interested, that they want to learn something new, that they don't regard themselves as knowing it all anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So they are curious, they are eager to learn, they are eager to improve themselves, and they really suck it in like a sponge. So I really see a change within a couple of days. So they start like novices, and in the end they really already knew how to handle an algorithm, and out of nothing produce an interesting scene within half an hour's time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they seemed, because I sat in on these classes obviously, and at the workshops, and they seemed really engaged and responsive, which is great to see. So I think you'll have, with a bit of luck, one or two maybe success stories, or at least some finished scripts, which would be, which is, I guess, is what it's all about.
Yeah, definitely.
So so let's just go back a bit in terms of your acting career. That brought you then to working in, because as far as I'm aware, you work for for blue chip. You coach and you story development for blue chip companies and
Yes.
corporations and
Yes.
stuff. And you also spoke at TED in Vienna. I believe in the recent past. So what brought you to that? How did you end up doing that line of work?
Well, as consultant for storytelling, it just so happened that I was consulted on image videos that are being done for those companies, those blue chip companies. And once I was asked about how they would give the best effect, I said, well, it depends on when you show it, where you show it, what context you show it. So I have to know everything about the tool. And so I went into corporate storytelling, meaning I'm now designing the whole approach inside the company. How they approach themselves, what roles do they assign to each other, what roles do they assign to the base of the company, the employees that are doing the basic stuff. How do they see themselves? How are they being addressed by management? And how does this enhance their performance and their self-respect and all these things? It's very important. It's all storytelling, and everybody is like a performer in a huge play. So if it's a company with, say, 100,000 employees, each one of those 100,000 is not an extra, but a star.
I see, yeah. So I guess it's about propping people up in self-esteem and making everybody feel valuable within that structure.
Making the value for society visible and tangible, so that they feel when they talk in the pub or what they're doing, people know immediately what their value is in terms of what they're doing for society. They don't have to boast about it because it's known.
Okay, I'm going to just switch direction here quickly and just ask you about your method of teaching. Now, obviously, you know, we could be here for 6 weeks going through all this, but if you could just give people a brief rundown and what's so different about the way that you work and how do you work? What's unique about your own process, do you think?
Well, I hate formalisms. So all those formulas and formalities that are very, like in that famous screenwriting book by Sid Field. It's you have 3 acts, and on page so and so you do this and this and stuff. I don't believe in that. It makes the whole thing like painting by numbers, and it makes the whole storyline predictable and mediocre, because everybody will write in. Everybody who read the book will do it in the same fashion. Yeah. So you don't want that. You want something that makes you stand out from the rest. And this can definitely only be something that changes from person to person when it's being used. So this is how I came up with algorithm, because an algorithm is like a decision tree. You go from one decision to the next, and you meet another crossroads, and you have to make another decision. And I help you determine what are the right decisions at any given point, and you come up with those decisions that in the end form a huge structure that will be characters and a storyline and conflict and background and props.
Yeah, if I could just quiz you about the word algorithm, because immediately when you hear the word algorithm, it's associated particularly with technology and particularly some of the negative stories about these social media companies and stuff. With the word algorithm jumps out as a taboo or negative word. Could you clear that up in terms of how that's algorithm in writing would be different and necessary?
Yeah. Well,
comparatively to
the bad algorithms.
To bad algorithms.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the difference between good algorithms and bad algorithms is whether you are in control.
Yes.
So if you are in control of the algorithm because you came up with it and you use it, then it's a good algorithm. If somebody uses it against you behind your back and somewhere underneath the surface, like Facebook, I'm allowed to say that.
You can say whatever you like.
Like Facebook,
Yeah, it's okay. We're not censored here, and if it's fine.
Okay, any other social network or what have you?
Anyone who's harvesting data, essentially.
Yeah. All right. So you don't know what's happening with that. So this is bad algorithm. It's done against you, against your will, and without your knowledge, specific knowledge that is. So, but if you are in control of the algorithm, it's like you are using a coffee machine, a vending machine, or something. It's an algorithm because first it says what is your choice of coffee, and you choose coffee, and then next step would be with milk, without milk. Next step would be sugar, no sugar, and so you go from step to step, and in the end you have the coffee that you wanted. Hopefully, hopefully. So if we put in. If you toss in a coin. If you don't, then okay. The same with filmmaking. If you don't toss in a coin, which is the production value, you have to pay for it, and you have to go through efforts to make a movie. So you put in the coin, and you follow the algorithm, and in the end you get coffee or a good film or whatever.
Or you get a cup of hot water. And
you might also get a cup of hot water, but this happens when you interact with human beings and not with machines. Well, but the thing is, my approach is a very technical, and I'm very conscious about it that it's a technical approach, because I believe the artistic thing that you put on top of it is your very personal thing. I don't teach you that, and I don't interfere with that. So what's your personal artistic expression and your message? Well, I don't touch that.
That's your own. Yeah.
That's your own as an artist. I show you how to construct the thing, how to make it not collapse. Like you're building a bridge, and I show you how to build the bridge so that it doesn't collapse. How it looks, what style the bridge is, it's up to you as an architect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So essentially, you're developing. You help people hone and develop their skills.
Yes.
To problem solve their way through their own creative process.
Yes. And be conscious about every step.
A foundation.
A foundation. A grid. It's like the grid that holds the whole thing together and gives it stability. Mm-hmm. So once you have established that grid, you put on top of the grid whatever you like, any skin, and anything that you think would enhance the surface.
Are there any other screenwriting coaches that work similarly to this?
No.
As far as you know? Okay.
No. Well, not that I know. These things I came up with. Most of it is either my invention or I did the combination of things that I learned other places. Like in theater, I learned conflict mapping, for instance, which is rather important. I learned this in theater. I read a lot of books about various techniques, even if they are not related to film, like a systemic approach in therapy. I use that a lot.
Okay.
So
how do you apply that concept?
Well, it's basically how you work against linear thinking, so that it's just the story is just one straight storyline that goes on and on and on. This is too classic. These days you have various multi-plot storylines that interact with each other. You have characters that interfere with each other and influence each other, and so you have a whole cloud of conflict going on, and it's not just one thing happening and a straight line. So I learned all those techniques of complicated things influencing each other, and still you have control.
Yeah. I'm going to be a bit bold now and ask you, why should people in the Irish filmmaking community, now we're biased obviously because we hosted your events recently, but and I know firsthand why people should work with you, because you motivate people really well and people respond to you very genuinely. From your perspective, why should people work with you, or why should people want to come and do one of your classes or workshops?
Well, if they are curious about what's there, what the world has to offer in different perspectives, I offer one of them. So you just want to know, and then you want to choose from a menu of various things that there are. And I'm one item on the big menu of the world menu of screenwriting hints.
Yeah. And
So I'm just one. Many others. I want to choose from. And if you want to know, there is this. It's a rather unique approach. So when you skip my approach, then there's a whole universe that you don't know about.
Yeah, what I found interesting is that you seem to be very interested in your students after the fact. After the course, you seem to want to check in with them, and you offer services, follow-up services and stuff. And I think this is a breath of fresh air in this country anyway, because in other screenwriting classes, it's felt, and I've heard feedback from people that they feel as if they're given a spiel, you know, that they have throughout that course or workshop, and then it's like, that's yours now. Off you go into the world, and that's it. I think, like all best teachers or mentors, particularly that I've had, they're always kind of in the periphery, you know. Particularly if someone is, and let's be frank about it, I'm not saying that you speak to, you're in contact or good pals with everybody you've ever sat in one of your classes. That's not what I mean. Yeah. But, you know, in every class, just like every other class teaching the creative arts, there's usually one or two standouts who have an aptitude for the work, and you can see that they're going places, and they might need a little guidance or steering here or there. So that seems to be part of your remit, to make, you know, to check in with people and offer services, but also to courtesies and gestures to make sure they keep going. Am I right in saying that?
Oh yeah. Well, I think that amongst the students there is the possibility that there is a new Steven Spielberg, and I would certainly not want to mistreat the next Spielberg. See, now I want to make sure that this Spielberg really becomes the next Spielberg or the next Scorsese or the next Coppola or the next whatever. If I and it's not always clear from the beginning who that will be. So of course I do it especially. What I do it especially for those one or two people who really become great and prolific filmmakers. I do it for them. Of course, I don't do it for everybody, but I know there's that one filmmaker. He or she needs to be encouraged, and that's basically what I'm doing.
Yeah. And people, like I said, they seem to really, I think, also enjoy it as well. It's there's a levity to your workshops as well. Now, obviously, there's a huge amount of academic, ideas and musings and strategies that people have to get through. There's no avoiding that. Yeah. But it's surprisingly light for the amount of material you get through.
Thanks.
So that's a big plus. So yeah, I guess you'll be coming back. You'll be coming back to Ireland.
I'd love to.
You're based in Vienna, right?
I'm based in Vienna, but as I'm traveling the world constantly, so it's no big deal to show up in Dublin once in a while, and I love it very much. I love Ireland and I love Dublin, and I love the people, especially their attitude, the way you meet them on the streets. It's different than in Vienna, where people are rather grumpy, and
Yeah, I think we've a great history of storytelling in this country. But just like all the great storytellers of this country in pubs, you know, they don't always know when the story should end. And that's, I suppose, if you or people like you can help in any way, that'd be, you know, gratefully received, I'd imagine. So yeah, I think so, you know, I think we'll leave it there. That's been very beneficial. So you'll be back at some point later this year to maybe put on something else, you would think?
Well, I would be looking forward to it.
Okay. Well, there's there's some we've been putting up some live videos of bits and pieces of Ip speaking and the workshop, and some photographs and stuff, and you can check out Ip's website in the meantime if you like. It's www.viennafilmcoach.at. Am I correct?
Yes, with a hyphen in between.
In between.
Vienna hyphen film coach.
Filmcoach.at. at .at for Austria.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Well, you're welcome.